Kim Dukpal was at home, struggling through a test while his teacher watched in disappointment, checking the time. The teacher scolded him harshly, frustrated that Dukpal kept failing without showing any progress. As he was scolding him, Jong-chul rushed in to announce that they had caught Kwang-soo. The teacher froze when he realized Dukpal wasn't just another student, but a senior member of a dangerous gang. Dukpal, calm and composed, told his men to escort the teacher out. Things quickly escalated when a captured man, Kwang-soo, tried to escape and turned violent, threatening the teacher with a knife. Dukpal stepped in immediately. Within seconds, he disarmed Kwang-soo and knocked him out. Afterward, Dukpal headed to meet the gang's leader, known as the chairman. He expressed concern that Kwang-soo might have joined a rival group, but the chairman appeared calm. Instead of worrying, he told Dukpal to focus on studying so he could one day lead the organization himself. Later that night, Dukpal dismissed his driver and bodyguard, choosing to go home alone. While stopping for a smoke, he noticed a young man about to jump off a bridge. Acting without hesitation, he ran to save him. The boy was Yi-hyun, a troubled high school student. Though Dukpal managed to pull him to safety, a truck suddenly struck Dukpal. When he woke up, he was in a hospital bed, but in Yi-hyun's body. His mind and soul were intact, but his body was no longer his. Meanwhile, his friends, Jong-chul and Jong-soo, showed up seeking revenge. They beat him up, unaware that the person they were attacking was actually Dukpal himself. They dragged him to his own memorial service, but no one believed his desperate claims that he was still alive. Dukpal tried to return his spirit to his body by visiting the morgue, but the doctor explained that it was too late. His old body was gone and would be buried soon. In desperation, he jumped off the same bridge, hoping to reverse whatever had happened, but instead woke up 3 days later with a broken foot. He also missed his own funeral. Soon, Yi-hyun's father's secretary arrived, coldly handing him his schoolbooks and warning him not to cause trouble again. Reading through Yi-hyun's diary, Dukpal discovered Yi-hyun had been brutally bullied at school and ignored by his own family. Enraged, Dukpal vowed to make things right for him. After leaving the hospital, he returned to Yi-hyun's home, where the housekeeper welcomed him warmly. She explained that Mi-kyung, the chairman's secretary, had been encouraging Yi-hyun's mother to drink excessively. She suspected Mi-kyung was plotting to remove Yi-hyun and his mother, Min-seo, from the picture before the chairman's legal wife passed away. If that happened, Yi-hyun's family would inherit everything. The housekeeper also mentioned that Yi-hyun's attitude seemed different lately, assuming it was due to the accident. Dukpal got a new haircut. While buying schoolbooks one day, he ran into Se-kyung, who recognized him instantly as Yi-hyun. Though he didn't recognize her, he helped him choose his books and watched him leave, puzzled by his unfamiliar behavior. Over time, Dukpal adapted to his new life. He began exercising, studying, and learning about Yi-hyun's past. When school reopened, everyone was shocked by Yi-hyun's transformation. He looked and acted completely different, to the point that his classmates thought he was a transfer student. The bullies, especially Jaemin's group, couldn't believe their eyes. Eventually, Jae-min and his gang cornered him and started a fight. Though Dukpal's mind was that of a fighter, Yi-hyun's body couldn't keep up. He tried to fight hard but lacked the strength he once had. One hard kick to the head sent him collapsing to the ground, unconscious. After being beaten unconscious by the bullies, Dukpal drifted into darkness, where he encountered Yi-hyun's spirit. The boy seemed tired and defeated, asking him to stop interfering in his life because he believed nothing could be fixed. When Dukpal woke up, Se-kyung was standing beside him and urging him to stop getting into fights. Then they went to the infirmary to treat his wounds. While tending to him, Se-kyung noticed how Yi-hyun spoke like someone far older, mentioning the military and experiences that made no sense for a teenager. This made Se-kyung suspicious. He began questioning why Yi-hyun acted so differently and why he had not recognized him earlier at the bookstore. Yi-hyun, unable to reveal the truth, claimed that memory loss from the accident explained everything. Se-kyung's attitude shifted. He accused Yi-hyun of having blackmailed and stalked him before the accident. He insisted the real Yi-hyun was still out there and that someone was hiding what happened. Yi-hyun denied the accusations and maintained that the head injury had changed his personality. Around the same time, students whispered about how the weak boy had suddenly fought back against his bullies. Over the following weeks, Yi-hyun befriended a group of girls. Se-kyung, though still watchful, noticed how serious Yi-hyun had become about his studies and training. Yi-hyun spent most of his free time working out and building strength. When the secretary from his father's office threatened to send him abroad, he calmly stood his ground. One night, Yi-hyun visited the gang's old bathhouse, where two gangsters tried to pick a fight. Using his old instincts, he subdued them with ease and revealed himself as Duke Pal, once the gang's second in command. The men immediately showed respect, and he left after giving them some money. Later, Jung-chul arrived with Tae-min and the school bullies, who were looking to join the gang under its new leader, Dong-soo. The gangsters mentioned that a young boy had shown up earlier, claiming to be Duke Pal, but Dong-soo dismissed it. Jae-min noticed Yi-hyun leaving and realized he was the same person. At school, Se-kyung grew increasingly curious. He visited Yi-hyun's home under the excuse of studying, but secretly searched his room for clues. Yi-hyun caught him and became suspicious of his motives. Se-kyung admitted that guilt drove him to uncover the truth, believing that pretending nothing had happened would mean erasing the real Yi-hyun's existence. Their discussion was interrupted by noise from downstairs. Yi-hyun's mother, drunk and furious, was blaming her son for destroying her career and life. Once a famous actress, his mother had lost everything after becoming involved with the chairman and giving birth to Yi-hyun. Yi-hyun forced all alcohol out of the house before putting her to bed. Meanwhile, Se-kyung took a strand of hair for DNA. Later that night, he took Se-kyung out to clear the air. They visited a quiet music library where they listened to records and talked about life. Yi-hyun reflected on how the accident had changed his outlook. He had decided to stop being passive and to stand up for what was right, even when the odds were against him. Meanwhile, Se-kyung's father grew suspicious and called his son, demanding his whereabouts. Se-kyung gets anxious, especially since past mistakes had led to harsh punishment. At home, he confessed where he had been and was surprised when his father allowed him to go without discipline. At school, tensions returned. Jae-min and his group cornered Yi-hyun again, showing him a humiliating video of the real Yi-hyun's past. The sight enraged Duke Pal, who provoked Jae-min into attacking first. The fight was quick and brutal. Duke Pal's experience overwhelmed the bullies, leaving them all on the ground. When it ended, Jae-min finally realized he had been fighting someone far beyond his level. Yi-hyun made it clear who he was. Duke Pal, second in command of the Chilsung gang. The homeroom teacher approached Se-kyung and asked him to keep an eye on Yi-hyun, worried that the bullying was getting out of hand. Before they could act, they both noticed a commotion outside. Through the classroom window, they saw Yi-hyun single-handedly overpowering Jae-min and his gang. The teacher hurried out. She immediately took charge of the situation, harshly reprimanding Jae-min and his followers before turning to Yi-hyun with concern. Once the chaos settled, she brought Yi-hyun to the staff room. There, she explained that he had every right to file a formal complaint through the school violence committee. The idea surprised Yi-hyun, who wondered why no teacher had ever intervened before. The teacher reminded him that in the past, he had refused to cooperate with investigations, which made it difficult for anyone to help. She encouraged him to take action now, assuring him that the bullies could be expelled if he chose to report them. After leaving the staff room, Yi-hyun confronted Jae-min and his friends again. To his surprise, they were unfazed by the threat of expulsion. They had no interest in school or a diploma. Realizing that removing them would only transfer the problem elsewhere, Yi-hyun decided to discipline them himself. After school, Yi-hyun created a personal list of goals to complete before the real Yi-hyun's return. The first was to reform the bullies, followed by protecting his mother, graduating high school, and forming genuine friendships. The next day, Yi-hyun started disciplining the bullies. Whenever they acted out, he disciplined them physically to make them understand their place. Over time, his methods worked. The bullies started to obey him, and the rest of the school began viewing Yi-hyun with admiration and awe. Meanwhile, Se-kyung remained suspicious. He contacted one of his father's associates to conduct a DNA test to determine whether Yi-hyun was an imposter. The results came back confirming that Yi-hyun was genuine, leaving Se-kyung more confused than ever. Despite the results, he continued to observe Yi-hyun's every move. Around the same time, Yi-hyun questioned Jae-min about Se-kyung's connection to the events before the accident. He learned that Se-kyung had once reported the bullying to the school, but had later withdrawn his involvement when Yi-hyun refused to tell the truth. At school, Yi-hyun continued to struggle academically, but began excelling in social relationships. He approached Se-kyung for tutoring, though Se-kyung initially refused. He eventually agreed. Yi-hyun gained popularity after defeating Jae-hoon in a basketball match and using the victory to speak against gossip and rumor spreading. Yi-hyun and Se-kyung grew closer through their study sessions, but both carried doubts. Yi-hyun sensed that Si-kyung was hiding something, while Si-kyung remained uneasy about Yi-hyun's sudden transformation. Si-kyung became deeply invested in understanding what really happened to the real Yi-hyun. He committed to tutoring him, though Yi-hyun showed little improvement, especially in mathematics. One afternoon, Si-kyung noticed Yi-hyun eating pineapple cake and remembered that the real Yi-hyun was allergic to it. He made him drop the cake, but Yi-hyun ate another thing that is made of pineapple. Moments later, Yi-hyun developed a severe allergic reaction and was rushed to the hospital. When he regained consciousness, Si-kyung confronted him about the incident. He questioned how the housekeeper could forget such an important detail and why Yi-hyun seemed unaware of his own medical history. He accused him of faking memory loss and demanded the truth, overcome by guilt and emotion. Se-kyung confessed that he felt responsible for what happened to the real Yi-hyun because he had turned him away the night of the accident. He believed that if he had listened, things might have ended differently. Yi-hyun didn't explain what truly happened, but promised that Se-kyung would one day have a chance to make things right. He asked for Se-kyung's help until that time came. Se-kyung agreed, but only on the condition that the real Yi-hyun would eventually return. They decided to focus on their studies together while waiting for that moment. Meanwhile, Dong-soo and Jong-chul finalized preparations for a plan. They were planning a major operation for the gang, and they needed additional manpower and began recruiting. Dong-soo wanted to use younger recruits like Jae-min's group to strengthen their influence and expand their control. Unable to join his men personally due to unforeseen circumstances, Dong-soo sent Jae-min as a replacement. Excited by the opportunity, Jae-min joined the gang's mission, only to realize too late that he had been pulled into a kidnapping attempt targeting Yi-hyun's house. While walking home after school, Se-kyung and Yi-hyun arrived to find chaos unfolding outside Yi-hyun's house. Members of Dong-soo's gang, assisted by Jae-min, were attempting to kidnap Yi-hyun's mother. Without hesitation, both boys jumped into the fight, managing to fend off several attackers before the police sirens drew near. Seeing the situation spiral out of control, Jae-min panicked and ran away. The rest of the gang fled moments later as the police reached the scene. Yi-hyun's mother was rushed to the hospital, while Se-kyung stayed behind to help handle the situation. During the police questioning, Yi-hyun tried to offer a quiet bribe to avoid further investigation. When that failed, he dismissed the incident entirely, claiming the supposed kidnappers were simply drunk men who had parked illegally outside his house. Se-kyung was baffled by the lie, but Yi-hyun explained that police involvement would only bring unnecessary attention and make things worse. He insisted that he would deal with the matter in his own way, and vowed to protect his mother, certain that Mi-kyung was behind the attack. Afterward, Se-kyung returned home and fabricated a story to explain his injuries, claiming he had been attacked by a street gang. His father, Myung-hyun, dragged him back to the location but found no signs of a fight. Frustrated, he accused Se-kyung of lying and began to lose his temper. Overwhelmed with fear, Se-kyung fainted. His mother, upon hearing what happened, called to reprimand Myung-hyun for being too harsh, but he insisted that strict discipline was the only way to make his son stronger. The following morning, Yi-hyun visited the police station to finalize his statement, confirming the story of a misunderstanding. The case was dropped shortly after. With the authorities off his back, Yi-hyun shifted his focus toward Mi-kyung. However, tracking her down proved difficult. She used multiple phone numbers, moved discreetly, and remained unreachable at the company. Until he could get to her, Yi-hyun hired security guards to watch over his mother's home. Meanwhile, Dong-soo's group met with Mi-kyung to explain the failed abduction. Though furious, Mi-kyung demanded results. Dong-soo promised to finish what they started and punish Jae-min for deserting his comrades. Jae-min, realizing the danger he was in, went into hiding and stopped showing up at school. His absence fueled rumors that Yi-hyun had seriously injured him during a fight. Despite the gossip, most students admired Yi-hyun's bravery, even cheering him on when he boasted about his fighting skills. As time went on, Yi-hyun and Se-kyung spent more time together. One evening, Yi-hyun noticed that Se-kyung had developed a nervous habit of biting his nails. He sensed trouble at home but said nothing. They decided to relax at a study room. Later, Se-kyung quietly admitted that he had lied to his father to protect Yi-hyun. Feeling guilty, Yi-hyun apologized and decided to lighten the mood by teaching him a few basic fighting moves. Back at Se-kyung's house, Myung-hyun began investigating Yi-hyun, convinced that he was a bad influence. Later that night, Se-kyung walked Yi-hyun home. Outside the gate, they spotted a figure lurking in the dark. It was Jae-min, who had come to check whether the police were looking for him after the failed kidnapping. He was stunned to realize that Yi-hyun lived there. Concerned, the boys brought him to a nearby cafe for questioning, but Jae-min refused to explain his presence. When Yi-hyun noticed how hungry he looked, he offered to bring him home for food. Se-kyung decided to accompany them out of caution. Once there, Jae-min shamelessly asked to spend the night. Despite everything, Yi-hyun agreed on the condition that it would be only for one night, and made it clear that forgiveness was not part of the deal. Later that evening, Se-kyung cornered Jae-min privately, demanding the truth about his ties to the gang. His anger boiled over, and he threatened to throw Jae-min off the balcony. Yi-hyun overheard the argument and forced Jae-min to reveal everything. Only then did he discover that the gang involved in the kidnapping was Dong-su's. He had never seen their faces before, but Jae-min's confession confirmed it. The next morning, the three attended school together. Se-kyung remained openly resentful of Jae-min and continued analyzing Yi-hyun's strange behavior, wondering if he was suffering from a split personality. Beyond the school grounds, Dong-su confided in Jong-cheol about his growing doubts. Despite his hesitation, he felt bound by his promise to Mi-kyung and agreed to finish the mission. Later that evening, Yi-hyun left school early, telling Se-kyung he had someone to meet. The day ended with him being captured and brought face-to-face with Dong-su. Se-kyung had witnessed the kidnapping. Panicked, Se-kyung picked up Yi-hyun's phone from the ground and immediately tried to call the police. As the operator answered, he froze, remembering Yi-hyun's earlier warning not to involve law enforcement. Fearful of making things worse, he quickly hung up, pretending the call was a mistake. Left alone and desperate, he started piecing together how to find and save his friend on his own. Yi-hyun was taken to an abandoned building. The atmosphere was tense as Dong-su demanded answers, convinced Yi-hyun had been meddling in things he shouldn't. Yi-hyun fought back fiercely, displaying his old strength and skill, but the gang's numbers overwhelmed him. He was knocked unconscious after a brutal fight. At school, life went on as usual. The teacher, unaware of what had happened, punished the bullies and assigned them cleaning duties. But instead of obeying, they planned to capture Jae-min and deliver him to Dong-su at the Sinho Hotel. Once Jae-min overheard their plan, he panicked and ran off. He encountered Se-kyung, who was torn between replying to his father's messages or figuring out how to save Yi-hyun. Jae-min, in a frenzy, dragged Se-kyung along as they fled. The two hid in an alley, where Jae-min explained everything. The bullies were after him, and the gang planned another kidnapping, this time targeting Yi-hyun's mother again. Se-kyung urged him to go with him to stop it, but Jae-min refused, more concerned for his own safety. Meanwhile, Yi-hyun regained consciousness in Dong-su's hideout. When questioned, he revealed details that only Dukpal would know, trying to convince Dong-su of his true identity. Se-kyung left on his own, taking a taxi to Yi-hyun's house while ignoring repeated calls from his father. Using Yi-hyun's dropped phone, Se-kyung contacted the security company and ordered additional guards to protect the residents. By the time Jong-cheol and his men arrived, the house was heavily secured, leaving them unable to act. They chose to wait for an opening. Dong-su remained doubtful, but decided to talk. He admitted that Mi-kyung had hired him to kidnap Yi-hyun's mother and send her to a mental facility. Once she was gone, Yi-hyun was to be sent abroad permanently. Meanwhile, Se-kyung arrived at the Sinho Hotel, followed shortly by his father, Myung-hyun. Se-kyung admitted to luring his father there so that he would help him rescue Yi-hyun. At the same time, Yi-hyun urged Dong-su to walk away from the gang life, promising to help him start a restaurant instead. He then walked out of the hotel unharmed. Outside, he found Se-kyung and Myung-hyun. While the boys were standing outside, Myung-hyun confronted Dong-su personally. Using his authority as a senior prosecutor, he threatened the gang with severe legal consequences if they targeted Yi-hyun or his mother again. The encounter left Dong-su uneasy, questioning whether continuing under Mi-kyung's orders was worth it. Back home, Yi-hyun noticed the increased security and realized Se-kyung had arranged it. Meanwhile, upon hearing about Dong-su's hesitation, Mi-kyung grew furious and pressed him to act quickly before Yi-hyun could turn the situation around. The following day, Se-kyung and Yi-hyun met secretly, and Se-kyung explained the agreement he had made with his father. His father helped Yi-hyun on the condition that Se-kyung stop being friends with him. Yi-hyun reassured him that he had done the right thing and thanked him for risking so much to protect him and his mother. They devised a private way to communicate and promised to keep studying together. Yi-hyun also made a lighthearted promise to show Se-kyung new experiences beyond their stressful lives. In the days that followed, Se-kyung distanced himself at school to avoid suspicion and began spending time with Jae-hoon instead. When Jae-hoon mocked Yi-hyun, Se-kyung quickly defended him, unwilling to hear anyone speak ill of his friend. Yi-hyun, meanwhile, remained oblivious to a girl at school who had developed a crush on him. His focus stayed on helping Jae-min return to class and rejoin normal life. Yi-hyun learned Jae-min had taken a part-time job at a convenience store, and he visited him and promised to settle things with the gang so he could start fresh. At that exact time, Se-kyung called Yi-hyun in a distressed tone, confessing he had been thinking about ending it by jumping from the same bridge where Yi-hyun once nearly died. Without hesitation, Yi-hyun rushed to him and found him trembling on the roadside. He managed to calm him down and convinced him to spend the day with him. Se-kyung and Yi-hyun decided to take a short trip together to clear their minds. Yi-hyun, aware of how fragile Se-kyung had become, refused to let him spiral again. They left the city and headed to the coast for some peace. Unbeknownst to them, Dong-soo and Jong-chul were tailing their car. Yi-hyun spotted them along the way, but decided to ignore them, choosing to focus on helping Se-kyung heal. The two friends spent the day like carefree boys. They rode bicycles along the shore, splashed in the waves, browsed small shops, and ate. When night came, they tried to book a hotel room, but the receptionist refused to check them in since they were minors without an adult. Yi-hyun remembered a motel owner who owed Dukpal a favor and paid him a visit. He leveraged the man's secret to secure a room. Se-kyung, puzzled by how easily Yi-hyun handled the situation, began wondering who this mysterious Dukpal really was and how Yi-hyun knew him. Meanwhile, Dong-soo and Jong-chul checked into the same motel, intending to abduct Yi-hyun once he was alone. Their resolve didn't last long. Jong-chul fell asleep on guard duty, and the plan was quietly abandoned for the night. Inside the motel room, Se-kyung opened up about the abuse he suffered at home. Se-kyung had reached his breaking point at home after discovering that his father, Myung-hyun, had installed hidden cameras in his room. When he confronted his father, he dismissed his anger and refused to take responsibility. Feeling violated and hopeless, Se-kyung fled the house, convinced that ending it was the only escape from his father's control. Yi-hyun listened in silence as Se-kyung described the fear and anxiety that had consumed his life. Realizing how close his friend had come to ending it, Yi-hyun vowed to intervene before it was too late. After Se-kyung fell asleep, Yi-hyun took his phone and called Myung-hyun directly. He told him that Se-kyung would be staying with him for a while to recover, but promised he would continue attending school. Myung-hyun's anger was evident, but Yi-hyun stood firm, making it clear that Se-kyung needed time away to feel safe. The next morning, Yi-hyun woke early and contacted Jong-chul for a meeting. When Dong-soo and Jong-chul arrived, expecting hostility, they were caught off guard as Yi-hyun began recounting stories only Dukpal could have known. Slowly, the truth sank in. They believed he was not an imposter, but the real Dukpal reborn. Their demeanor softened, and they embraced him like family, vowing to protect him from Mi-kyung. Soon after, Yi-hyun's driver arrived with food and their school uniforms. The boys prepared for classes, while Dong-soo and Jong-chul prepared to confront Mi-kyung. Later that day, Myung-hyun stormed into the school, enraged. He accused Yi-hyun of coercing Se-kyung into the overnight trip, claiming he had gotten his son drunk and taken him to a motel. The teacher tried to calm him, but he demanded a private conversation with Se-kyung. The pressure became too much, and Se-kyung collapsed from the stress. While the nurse tended to him, Yi-hyun asked to speak to Myung-hyun directly. Yi-hyun didn't hold back. He told Myung-hyun bluntly that his behavior amounted to abuse, that he was suffocating his son, and that Se-kyung's despair came from his inability to live freely. Yi-hyun urged him to seek help for his own trauma before trying to shape his son's life. Myung-hyun, furious, insisted that strict discipline was good parenting. He attempted to strike Yi-hyun but was quickly stopped. Humiliated, he demanded the school open a violence committee investigation against Yi-hyun. Yi-hyun encouraged Se-kyung to confront his father calmly and express his fears rather than run from them. Se-kyung followed the advice and later confronted Jae-hoon, discovering that his classmate had been spying on him for Myung-hyun. Disgusted, he severed ties. Elsewhere, Jae-min returned to his apartment, only to find his old friends waiting. They had orders to capture him and deliver him to the gang, ignoring Jong-chul's command to leave him alone. Realizing they would betray him without hesitation, Jae-min braced himself for a fight. That evening, Se-kyung and Yi-hyun met at the study room. Yi-hyun dozed off while reading, and Se-kyung quietly left a note before heading home. The next morning, Yi-hyun's mother threw a fit when she couldn't find her medication. Normally, Mi-kyung handled her prescriptions, but she had recently stopped delivering them. When Yi-hyun went to the pharmacy, he uncovered the truth. Mi-kyung had been overprescribing strong antidepressants, keeping his mother dependent and unstable. Furious, he contacted Dong-soo to report what he had learned and asked him to bring Mi-kyung to him. Dong-soo and Jong-chul debated whether turning on Mi-kyung was wise. Before they could act, she appeared in person. Calm and cold, she listened as Dong-soo gave her an ultimatum: 3 days to face Yi-hyun and explain herself. She left, visibly enraged. Seeking revenge, Mi-kyung soon crossed paths with Jae-min's former friends at the police station. They were preparing to report the gang for attempted kidnapping. Seeing an opportunity, Mi-kyung approached them with a plan to make the situation far worse. Meanwhile, Yi-hyun was unsettled to discover that Se-kyung hadn't shown up at school. Myung-hyun had gathered other parents to turn them against him, spreading false stories that he had corrupted Se-kyung. Students began whispering that Yi-hyun had taken Se-kyung on an inappropriate trip, gotten him drunk, and dragged him to a motel. Before he could address the rumors, the police called. Jaemin's old friends had filed new complaints, accusing him of violence and intimidation. Yi-hyun began to realize the scale of the manipulation around him. Mi-kyung and Myung-hyun were working together. Mi-kyung contacted Yi-hyun and requested a private meeting. When they met, she appeared calm and confident, revealing that she no longer needed the gang to achieve her goals. She bragged about a new scheme designed to destroy his reputation completely. With a cruel smile, she explained how she had paid the bullies to file police reports accusing him of assault. She had also promised to provide them lifelong financial support and legal protection, ensuring their loyalty. Blinded by greed, the boys eagerly accepted her deal. Before leaving, Mi-kyung warned Yi-hyun that he would never catch her, because she had left no trace of her involvement in any crime. Se-kyung arrived later and was informed by Jae-hoon that, under orders from his father, he would be moved to another class until the bullying case was resolved. After the encounter, Yi-hyun returned to school, surprised to find his classmates still friendly toward him. Refusing to comply, Se-kyung wrote an official statement declaring that he had never been bullied and returned to Yi-hyun's class. His defiance lifted Yi-hyun's spirits. Not long after, Jae-min walked in and announced that the bullies had officially reported Yi-hyun to the police. The three boys met to discuss the situation. Yi-hyun told them not to worry, promising to take care of everything. After he left, Se-kyung lashed out at Jae-min for staying quiet when he could help. Meanwhile, Yi-hyun confronted the bullies directly and offered them a chance to withdraw their false statements. They refused, trusting Mi-kyung's empty promises and believing they could get away with lying. Their plan was to pressure Jae-min into supporting their story to make the case stronger. Later, the boys met Jae-min and revealed their plan to have Yi-hyun sent to juvenile detention. They even showed him fake medical documents to back their claims. Horrified, Jae-min realized those injuries came from fights he himself had started, not Yi-hyun. He refused to take part, angering the others, who threatened to turn him in as well. At the police station, Yi-hyun struggled to defend himself. The investigator demanded concrete proof, but all the video evidence of the bullying had been deleted. The only way to clear his name would be to find a witness willing to speak up. Yi-hyun decided to contact Dong-soo and Jong-chul, asking them to track down Mi-kyung while he focused on resolving the case. Despite the mounting pressure, the two boys keep studying. Yi-hyun managed to pass his school exams, earning praise from Se-kyung. His relief was short-lived when he received a message from the detective saying that his case had been abruptly transferred to the prosecution office. At the station, Yi-hyun explained that neither of his parents could be reached. The officer mentioned they had also tried to contact Mr. Bae, his biological father, but he was out of town. Around the same time, Se-kyung confronted his own father for interfering in the case. Myung-hyun admitted to pushing the case forward, convinced that Yi-hyun was dangerous. Se-kyung defended his friend, declaring that his father was wrong. The next day, Se-kyung met with Jae-min again and questioned why he refused to testify. He believed Yi-hyun would never ask Jae-min directly because it might expose him to trouble. Still, Se-kyung urged Jae-min to step up and tell the truth out of gratitude. Jae-min refused, but was clearly torn. Later that evening, Jae-min visited Yi-hyun, upset that Yi-hyun hadn't asked for his help. He admitted his fear of being arrested and begged for forgiveness, saying he just wanted to graduate without incident. Yi-hyun reassured him, saying he understood. He invited Jae-min to his home, fed him dinner, and encouraged him to become a better person. Before the night ended, Yi-hyun told him to apologize to the real Yi-hyun if he ever returned. Meanwhile, Se-kyung apologized for his father's actions, and Yi-hyun comforted him, saying it wasn't his fault. Se-kyung admitted that he no longer feared his father and felt strong enough to stand up to him. Yi-hyun expressed pride in his progress. Later, Yi-hyun spent the night at the hospital with his mother, who appeared more alert and clear-minded than before. During their conversation, she spoke about Mi-kyung and Chairman Bai, revealing that Boy had bought Mi-kyung a new apartment 2 years earlier. Yi-hyun immediately took note and sent Dong-soo and Jong-chul to investigate the location. The next morning, Tae-min woke early, cleaned up, and prepared for school. He left a note for his sister and called Se-kyung to ask where the upcoming hearing would be held. As the hearing began, Myung-hyun arrived to stop Se-kyung from testifying. At the same moment, Tae-min appeared and announced that he was there to betray someone. Chil-sung made an unexpected visit to the hospital where Yi-hyun's mother was recovering. He found Yi-hyun asleep by her bedside and quietly began talking to her. During their conversation, she was shocked to hear about everything her son had gone through, how he had risked his life to protect her and kept their world from falling apart. Chil-sung, curious about the rumors, asked if Yi-hyun was Duk-pal's son. She denied ever knowing anyone by that name, but Chil-sung's instincts told him there was more to the story. Before leaving, he advised her to get her life in order and protect her son before it was too late. During the hearing, Tae-min walked in and completely shifted the outcome. He betrayed his friends, stealing their tablet that contained all the videos they had taken while bullying other students. A fight erupted, and Myung-hyun was stunned to see his own son, Se-kyung, jump in to help stop it. Jaemin's confession and the digital proof were enough for the prosecutors to arrest the bullies on the spot. Yi-hyun, though relieved, was angry that Tae-min had ignored the chance he gave him to walk away. Tae-min admitted he couldn't live with himself if Yi-hyun went to juvenile detention for something he hadn't done. As the boys were escorted away, Tae-min offered a sincere apology while the others refused to say a word. Overwhelmed with emotion, he saw the real Yi-hyun's spirit nearby and broke down crying, apologizing through his tears. After the hearing, Yi-hyun rushed to the hospital, where Chil-sung, Dong-soo, and Jong-chul were waiting for him. His mother was being discharged, and Chil-sung asked for a private conversation. Within moments, the old man recognized who stood before him. Yi-hyun's tone, confidence, and composure left no doubt. It was Duk-pal. Chil-sung's eyes filled with tears as he realized his old friend had returned in another form. Yi-hyun confirmed it, explaining that he had stayed behind to protect the boy and his family. Knowing his own time was short, Chil-sung asked Dong-soo and Jong-chul to remain by Duk-pal's side and support him. After discharging his mother, Yi-hyun had a sudden realization about where to find Mi-kyung and Chairman Bai. He and his men went to the airport, where they intercepted the two as they returned from an overseas convention. Mi-kyung tried to run, but Yi-hyun caught her and demanded a private meeting. There, he laid out everything she had done, drugging his mother, hiring thugs, and framing him. Chairman Bai listened in silence, shocked by her actions and how they might damage the company's image. Mi-kyung tried to defend herself, but he cut her off, declaring that she had gone too far. Turning to Yi-hyun, he praised his courage and offered to officially recognize him as his son. Yi-hyun refused, telling him he wasn't fit to be a father since he had never understood what raising a child truly meant. With that, he walked out. Once things settled, Duk-pal began setting everything in order before the real Yi-hyun's spirit returned. He ensured that Jae-hoon apologized to Se-kyung, that Yi-hyun's mother stayed on the path to recovery, and that she had the confidence to rebuild her life. When she mentioned her desire to return to acting, he encouraged her and promised to support her. Eventually, Se-kyung demands answers. Yi-hyun refused to tell him the truth. Later that night, Yi-hyun went on a date with the girl who has a crush on him. The next day, he meets Se-kyung and takes him to the mausoleum. There, he finally tells him the truth. Se-kyung faced the real Yi-hyun's spirit, crying as he apologized for abandoning him when he needed help most and for blaming him for his own pain. Yi-hyun's spirit forgave him, bringing long overdue closure to them both. Later, Dong-soo figured out the truth too. While sharing drinks as Jong-chul slept nearby, he confronted Duk-pal. Dong-soo thanked his old leader for guiding and protecting them for so long, while Duk-pal thanked him for his loyalty and brotherhood. They shared a quiet goodbye, knowing it would be their last. After settling everything and ensuring Yi-hyun's world was stable, Duk-pal prepared to say farewell. However, it was Yi-hyun's spirit who chose to move on first. The boy said he was tired of suffering and finally at peace, grateful that Duk-pal had given meaning to his life. He told Duk-pal that no one deserved to live in his body more than him, then walked toward the light and disappeared. Paul stayed behind, now fully alive in Yi-hyun's body. Months later, he graduated from high school and moved on to university, where Se-kyung joined him. Two of them walked side by side across campus, smiling and ready for a new beginning.